the man they could not break. A true story from Abagana village, dedicated to Ogbonna. There are men who live their lives loudly, demanding attention, seeking praise, collecting titles like trophies. And then there are men who live quietly, doing what is right simply because it is right, asking for nothing in return, expecting nothing in return. Ogbonna was that kind of man. In the beautiful village of Abagana, a community blessed with fertile farmlands, rich culture, deep traditions, and a people who prided themselves on unity and cooperation, Ogbonna served. He served as a farmer, rising before the sun to tend his land with his own hands. He served as a neighbor, helping those around him without keeping score. He served as a father, leading his 6 children in morning prayers every single day before the rest of the village had even opened their eyes. And he served as a leader, first as Prime Minister of Abagana, appointed to that position because the king and elders saw in him something the village needed: honesty, integrity, courage. Ogbonna never told a comfortable lie when a difficult truth was needed. Ogbonna never stretched out his hand for a bribe when lesser men would have grabbed it with both hands. Ogbonna never turned away a person who came to him for help, even when those same people turned around and repaid his kindness with whispers and hatred. But Ogbonna had one thing that his enemies used against him at every opportunity: a hot temper. He laughed loudly and freely, the kind of laugh that filled a room and made strangers feel welcome. But when he was provoked, the fire came quickly. Land disputes, sharp words at village meetings, disagreements that escalated faster than they should have. These things gave his enemies the ammunition they needed, and they used it well. The whispers started quietly, as whispers always do in a village. Ogbonna is trouble. He causes problems wherever he goes. Something is not right about that man. Hatred is a strange and terrible thing. It does not need facts to survive. It only needs whispers and willing ears to receive them. The hatred grew. The whispers grew louder. And when the king died and Ogbonna became king caretaker of Abagana, the hatred reached a fever pitch. People who had smiled at his face now openly refused to address him by his title. The man who represented Abagana with dignity and integrity at every gathering was treated like a stranger in his own village. They said he used charms. They said he had killed people. They said he had rendered the youth of Abagana useless with his wickedness. Not one of these accusations came with evidence. Not one came with a witness. Not one came with truth. Just whispers, just hatred, just the kind of cruelty that small minds inflict on great ones. His children watched all of this with broken and confused hearts. They searched their home, quietly, carefully, looking for anything that would explain what people were saying about their father. They found nothing. No charms, no idols, no darkness of any kind. What they found instead was a Bible worn from use. What they found was a father on his knees every morning before dawn, leading them in prayer. What they found was a man who came home every evening tired from honest work and honest service. "Papa, why do they hate you like this?" they asked him. Ogbonna looked at his children and had no answer that the world would accept. So he simply said, "Keep doing what is right. That is all we can do." And so he changed, not because he was guilty, not because the accusations were true, but because he was tired. He stopped responding to insults. He stopped defending himself against accusations. He stopped fighting back against the whispers. He became still, calm, quiet, like a mountain that has decided it does not need to argue with the wind. But the hatred did not stop. It never does when it has no truth to fight against. His neighbor's wife died, and before her body was even cold, Ogbonna was accused of killing her. He said nothing. He did not call a meeting. He did not gather witnesses. He did not defend himself. He simply continued going to church every Sunday, continued leading morning prayers, continued helping the people who hated him whenever they needed help. Because that was who Ogbonna was. And nobody, not hatred, not accusations, not the cruelty of his own village, could change that. But the burden was heavy, too heavy for one man's shoulders. the loneliness of being misunderstood by the very people you have dedicated your life to serving, is a pain that has no medicine. Ogbonna fell ill, not just in body but in spirit. The weight of years of hatred, years of false accusations, years of helping people who repaid him with evil, had taken its toll. And one day, Ogbonna died. He died without a public apology from those who had wronged him. He died without the village acknowledging what he had given them. He died carrying a burden that was never his to carry. But he died with something his enemies never had: his integrity intact, his children at his side, and the respect of every elder in Abagana who had seen the truth clearly all along. But the story did not end with his burial. Shortly after Ogbonna was laid to rest, his neighbor's son died, and before grief could even settle properly on that family, they pointed their finger at Nonso, Ogbonna's son. He poisoned him. The accusation hit Nonso like a thunderbolt. His father had spent his entire life absorbing false accusations in silence. But Nonso was his father's son, and he had learned not just his father's patience but also his father's courage. Nonso did not shout. He did not fight. He went to the market. He bought 1 fowl for tubers of yam, 1 man cola, and he walked straight to the Abagana village shrine. He presented his case to the gods, the same gods that had watched everything Ogbonna endured in silence, the same gods that had seen every accusation, every whisper, every cruelty. And then Nonso did something that his father had never done. He made a public announcement. He told the whole of Abagana what he had done. He told them he had taken the matter to the shrine. He told them he was not his father. He would not suffer in silence. Abagana stirred. The elders gathered. The people discussed. And a decision was made. The burial of the neighbor's son would not proceed. Not until the family came forward. Not until they faced what they had done. Not until they stood in the village square, in front of everyone, and answered for their accusation. Took time, took pressure, but eventually, the family came out. They stood in the Abagana village square, in front of the same community that had watched Ogbonna suffer for years, and they apologized, publicly, openly, without escape. They performed the necessary rituals at the shrine. And only then was their son given the burial he deserved. Justice had come to Abagana, late as justice sometimes is, but it came. And somewhere, in whatever place good men go after this life, Ogbonna finally rested, because his name had been defended, because his son had stood up, because the truth, no matter how long it takes, always finds its way to the surface. This story is dedicated to every good man and woman who has ever been misunderstood, falsely accused, and repaid with evil for their kindness. Your story is not over, and the truth about who you really are will always outlast the lies. Rest well, Ogbonna. Your children made sure the world knows your truth.